It's 7 o'clock, I'll entertain a motion. Motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. It's a meeting of the Acushnet Finance Committee, Wednesday, February 6th, 2019. And this meeting will be audio and video recorded. And the first order of business we have this evening is the budget hearing for the Acushnet Police Department. Chief Alves, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
I think the budget you have before you, has everybody had a chance to review it?
We just got it.
Okay. So the budget you have before you reflects our current status. The police union has not, is still in the negotiations. So what you have in front of you is only the ASME union employees that have been, have reached agreement.
Who are they? Just the
The
dispatchers?
dispatchers.
And that's the only ones that are in the estimate?
Right. So the budget in and of itself, salaries is a little bit difficult to project without having the police union contract settled. So it's reflective, but an unsettled budget or an unsettled contract and at the current status. I believe that we're optimistic that we'll be reaching an agreement soon. So what you have before you is unsettled. Everything else is good to go.
Okay. Why don't you go line by line, Chief, and just eliminate the salary items?
All right. So if we skip over the salary line items and go straight to academy expenses, we level funded that at 12.4. The clothing allowance is gone up by 13%, and that's 24.2. The reason for that is we're looking to reduce overtime, and we have 4 officers going to the full-time academy. So we're hoping to have 1 extra person per shift, which will reduce overtime. The expense to the clothing line item would be contractual for those 4 new employees.
So this would be in line with that proposal I think you provided to us last year?
Yes,
Having a shift with 4
correct.
officers, okay.
So we're in the process of implementing that, and that would be that 4-3 split. So we would have 4 officers on and not replace the first officer out, and that way we would be able to reduce overtime. So we did talk about that last year, and we are in the process. Those officers will be going to the April Plymouth Academy, so they will be available to us early fall. The next line item down is energy, 34.9. That has been level funded. The next one down, 52.40, which is the R&M building and grounds, level funded at 24,675.
Now, on this, how is that building out? Is that enough to cover what the building needs as it ages? I know we had some areas there that we had some issues with.
Right, so we had issues with the floors,
Floors.
and as we were on the building committee, what happened with that is ultimately we made them come back in and fix the floors at no cost to the town. And then we had some issues with the HVAC system. Much of that was fixed. The pumps and things that we could tie back to construction were paid for by the companies, for the subcontractors. We have gone back and had to fine tune some of the stuff, but all in all, I think we're in good shape with that. And then with the green communities, the original lights we put in were, because the budget for that building was 20% over budget, we put in the cheapest lights possible and then went to the green community and got the lights replaced via a grant. So I'm hoping that, we should have actually next year a little bit lower electricity bills, which would then affect the next line item down. Now, No, that's the line item, correct, yes. So we may have a reduction in that next year. We'll have to wait to see how those bills.
Chief, are you fully recovered from that electrical strike?
Yes, that was, I believe, around 100K in damages,
And that was covered by the insurances, all of it?
yes. So, next one down is repair and maintenance of vehicles. We level funded that at 16,000. I'm not sure if you guys got in the budget packet, I put a projection in for FY '21. Ford will be converting all cruisers starting FY '21 to hybrids. So we will see probably about a $15,000 increase in the cost of the vehicles. There's also going to be some upfitting that will need to be done. Some of that we're doing starting this year. So a little bit further down the line item, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I anticipate FY '21, because that's going to be brand new, that you may see either an overage or we will up it for FY '21, but it's all gas powered. But FY '21, I would anticipate changing that line item.
When do you expect delivery of those hybrid cruisers?
The last of the gas-powered vehicles, I've already ordered 2 for this year. This will be the last year of those vehicles. Hybrids, that's it. The hybrids will be rolling out this fall, and we may see them if we had to replace a cruiser, via an accident or some other catastrophic issue. We may end up with a hybrid later on in the budget cycle, if we needed to replace it. Next one down is repair and maintenance of office equipment. That's been pretty much steady for a long time. We've level funded that one as well. The R&M software, 13.6, we've level funded that one as well. The telephone was a 25.3% increase to $5,700. What happened with that is we were funding the air cards, which is technically a Verizon telephone bill, out of 5580. And Finance Committee, along with the Finance Director, wanted everything being paid out of correct line items about 1.5 years ago. So this is the reflection of that mandate, which would provide you a much clearer picture of what we're spending on different things, and as they reflect to the particular line item. And I believe training and testing, we upped that to $15,000. So I'm not sure how much of the packet you've got in front of you, but we're looking to send an officer to become an accident reconstructionist. The state police at one time used to be able to provide us with accident reconstructionists. Now they're only able to do it if there's a fatality. So if we had a serious car accident, which should be investigated by a specialist, we wouldn't have that available to us. Anytime we had a car accident involving a town vehicle, we no longer can get an accident reconstructionist, which is, again, very important to us. And then thirdly, with technology being what it is, we cannot access the black box in your car if we're not certified accident reconstructionists. You're probably going to see more officers in the future need to go. We're also going to have to start thinking about sending officers for the drug recognition expert. We'll probably start seeing some of that next year. So there is a whole separate piece that I put in there for you to read regarding that, and with the breakdown of the costs.
We didn't get that information.
I'll get that to you when I give you all the binder stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll have everything broken down. We've already sent the officer for 2/3 of this, utilizing grants. There's no grant for the third piece, which is the actual reconstruction piece of it, the certification that allows you that access to be able to testify in court.
We have a young officer, so we're gonna be able to retain him.
We're putting, I like to look for those between the 7 and 15-year mark. Generally, after 7 years, you're staying. So I do have an officer in mind, and he's been here in that category. Next one down is gonna be office supplies. That one is level funded. The hardware supplies, I have reduced by 10%, which offsets some of the stuff that you've seen increases in, like the telephone and some of the other ones that you'll see we were paying out of different line items, so we just adjusted that downward. It's no great savings, it's just we moved money. Travel and seminar, this is also tied into the accident reconstructionist, because we're paying for some of the courses, but he's going to have to do some travel, so that's what that's in there. And again, it's all part of that packet that you will be getting shortly.
Who provides the training for that?
Company out of Florida. So their next class will be for the next fiscal year. The first one up is in Florida. Then after that, it bounces all over the place, but there's nothing here in New England. Dues and subscriptions, again, that's me moving money around from one line item to another line item, but that increase is just reflective of the proper line items. Equipment, level funded at 7,500. Vehicles, there's an increase in that one by 10.5%. The 91,725 is us changing some of the equipment. The body structure of the Ford Explorer is changing for this fiscal year to be ready for the next fiscal year, which is gonna have more of a battery setup in it. So the body type that's coming out this year is actually for next year's models.
So this isn't anything related to the vehicles in the article that you're going to submit? These are the current, work on the current vehicles? Is that what this line is for?
Yeah, we're not submitting a line item, I mean, a article for vehicles, it's just straight out of the budget.
Right.
So the,
Okay.
right, we
articles.
used to do it out of the article, but I believe since Mr. Noble's been here, we've been putting it in the
Budget.
budget. So I think it's just getting used to some of the procedural stuff that we're doing, like moving money from one line item to the next line item to more accurately describe what we're doing.
Okay.
Or is it an annual expense that?
It's an operating expense, should be paid out of operating revenue. It's not a capital item because it's a usable, it's basically paper clips for the police department. You're gonna have to have a cruiser no matter what, and paying it out of the one-time revenue isn't logical. You should pay it out of the operating expense. When money gets tight, I'm gonna, talk the other way.
Do we have any questions? I know we have a lot of areas here regarding the salaries and the administrative costs.
We'll have to bring them back in once the union contract settles.
Do we have a time frame on that at all?
Yes, I'm hoping literally within the next month.
Oh, good.
But we're still gonna need an article at town meeting for it. So, because we've got a retro that we would have to account for somehow.
Chief, I ask every year.
Yes, sir.
Just wondering, retirements on the department. I know we're always trying to play catch-up on your force. Do you have any forecasted retirements coming up that you're aware of?
Yes and no. As you know, I'm getting ready to age out. However, Mr. Noble has asked that I consider it till after I come back from vacation, which I'm going to
Sometime in
consider.
2025.
Outside of that, we have 2 officers that are probably 2.5 years out. We have an officer that just was called up to active duty. He won't be back until February 2020. We have one other military officer on the department. And it's difficult to say when the city of Taunton is down 28 officers and they're just poaching. It's
City of
hard for me to
Boston, down
predict
600.
Yeah.
what's gonna happen. The city of Boston normally has 20,000 candidates. This year alone, they only got 3,000. So I'm sure they're gonna come up short, and then they're gonna squeeze the communities next to them, and then it's just gonna be a ripple effect all the
Really?
way down. Yeah,
Difficult job, the way you want it.
right now, public sentiment being what it is, it is a national problem. If you were just to simply Google it, it'll kind of give you an idea of where we're at. It's not a good spot. So we hired one part-time officer, I want to say this November, and I put him in the full-time academy for April, so we started the part-time academy in December. I was able to put him in the full-time academy with the 3 that we had prior to, which would give us the 4 that we were looking for to begin with, because we didn't have the staff. So I don't have any part-time staff. We're waiting for the next test to come out. And that part-time officer that we hired in November, we asked for 6. The person we hired was the only applicant we received.
Really? They get like Barney Fife and start deputizing.
It's, right now, we're in a difficult position. It changes from time to time. Sometimes it's a popular job, sometimes it's not. Right now, it's not.
It's always a difficult job.
Yeah, that's true, but
Yeah.
right now it's difficult for us to hire staff. And so I anticipate, we definitely got 3 people close to retirement. I tend to think that, somebody will poach us. I don't know when, and it's just one of those things, it's always a surprise,
Yeah.
I'll have like 2 weeks' notice and that'll be it.
Well, don't they have an age restriction on who can like go into the academy and all that stuff?
Yes.
They ever think of expanding it to allow more of a,
Some,
you know?
some
people to
communities
draw on?
do. We have a bylaw that prevents us from hiring anyone over 32, and that's for both the police and the fire department. So we would need to change our bylaw just to be able to hire anyone over the age of 32. But say we hired you as a part-time police officer, and by the time you had an opportunity to be a full-time officer, and you were above the age of 32, we could still hire you. It's the initial hire from off the street to permanent intermittent, you have to be at least 32 or younger. A lot of communities do that. We're not, probably half the communities in the Commonwealth do that.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Chief.
Yes,
How many
sir.
permanent positions do you have?
How many permanent positions we have? Well, the 4 that we have will bring us up to 23.
23.
That'd be police officers, there's also civilian dispatchers, and an administrative assistant.
Questions? Mr. Howcroft?
No.
All set? All right, Chief, thank you very much.
All right, fantastic, thank you.
That was easy, Chief.
Everybody have a wonderful evening.
You as well. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks. When's your vacation?
Going to Aruba.
2025.
No, I think, I know the wife knows for sure. I think it's second week in March.
Oh, very good.
It's fantastic.
All right.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it, Mike.
I love yes, I love going there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just went this past November and I loved it. I can't wait to go back.
I stay right on Eagle Beach, all day.
Great.
All right, thank you, everybody have a good day. You all set, boss?
Well said, thank you,
All
sir.
right, thank you.
See you
Have a
tomorrow.
good night.
So, I gotta do something. Take about 2 weeks.
We have the selectmen budgets and Mr. Bryan.
Certainly, thank you. We will go to the selectmen's budget, which is the one marked 3 in the column. As you can see, a massive raise for the town administrator. So, the clerical is 2 positions, the part-time position and Lisa. And the part-time position is calculated based on what the wage would be if the employee comes into that office that I'm thinking is coming. Okay, we've not replaced that position, and if I get the right person, I'll fill it. If I don't, I'll leave it empty. So it's a 19-hour-a-week position. So we'll see what happens there. I don't think I'll get her, but I'm trying. Longevity is Lisa. So let's see the other. I changed the communications, which is the code red. This is the reverse 911. That's going up a few dollars, so to $9,200. And that's all I got for you in that budget.
All these salary items, they're all solid, they're all.
This one is, yeah.
There's nothing pending,
The board voted the 2% COLA, okay, based on the CPI. So actually doing it according to something. So the Greater Boston CPI was a range of 1.7 to 2.2, so they settled at 2. Very, very fair. It's coincidental that it's 2, but at least it's based on some discussion about what the economic factors are that go into a COLA. So I'm very proud of that. So that is the number, so. The budget number 4, which is the finance director and the town accountant, as you know, we don't have a finance director. How we say, we zeroed that and we moved it down into the accountant's budget, so next year we'll probably take that right off the chart. But it's still there for history. I'll let Julie do this one.
Sure. So the salaries, the salary for the finance director looks a little higher, is because originally I was just the town accountant, but at the end of the year last year, I got promoted to finance director, so it's a 2% increase over what I have right now. And same thing for the assistant accountant, it's a 2% increase, and the accounting clerk is union, so she has a step increase, and the COLA that's built into the union contract. The only other change I have under expenses is for the audit, and it went up $1,000, and that's part of the contract that we have with Melanson Heath. Yes.
How long is the contract for?
We have 1 more year after this.
How long has it been?
It's a-
This is only the second year that
This
we've
is
done it.
It's a 3-year contract, this is second year. They're doing a very good job.
That's a new firm.
Yeah, Melanson Heath, it is a new firm. We had Powers and Sullivan before. Every once in a while, you gotta make a change. New broom sweeps clean. But I'm very happy with the way that they conduct the audit. I'm very happy with the management letter. They're objective, they're fair.
Mhm.
And, you know, we can argue with them when they, in the draft of the management letter, but they don't change it if they think they're right, which is exactly what you want.
Exactly.
How long does that take to accomplish?
Well,
I mean, usually it's a few months. They come out for a lot of initial work in the summer, and then they'll pull a lot of stuff and then come back to us with requests. You know, they'll piecemeal. We pulled this random sample of payroll, of vendor invoices, things like that. So then they'll come back again for a full week and do work, pulling stuff for that week. And then usually we have a month or two of back and forth, going over drafts and things like that. So it's a process.
finals due right now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm working with them to try to get that.
They come and present it to the Board of Selectmen, and then copies of the bond statements are coming to you.
Yep.
We'll do the treasurer collector budget, number 6, next. And we can have Julie do that
Yeah.
too.
So last year, these were 2 separate budgets, treasurer and then collector. We wanted to combine them this year, so as did the new treasurer collector, Kathy Muller. We're hoping that by combining them, we can look at some of the shared costs and be able to reduce them going forward. She's obviously new, so a lot of this stuff is level funded. And then as we kind of go through the next few years, we'll be able to reduce costs as we can. So the salary for the treasurer collector right now, that's the majority of it. And then the additional piece of it comes out of the golf course. I don't know if you remember that, but they have, it's a little over $5,000 that's under the golf course that they pay for the treasurer collector's salary. The assistant collector is at 2% increase. The administrative assistant, that's a clerical union position, so there's a step increase. As well as, again, last year, the town meeting vote, that was a level funded amount because there were no numbers for the union, so the figure looks higher than it actually is based on the current amount this year. And same thing with the salaries clerical below it. There's a step increase and the COLA from the union contract. And then the other change that you'll see under salaries is longevity went down because we lost a member of the department who was collecting longevity. So that's the current amount for the people who are there. And then if you look at expenses, so professional and technical, we have $20,000 that we had budgeted for this year for the payroll processing company. We're keeping that same amount for FY20. We're still kind of waiting to see if that number is going to be a little high. I feel like it's really close to what it's actually going to be, but we have to wait a full year to see what the cost will be. So we're keeping it at 20 as a good estimate. And then we've added in 10,000. We have a new vendor that we're contracting with for a cash management system. It's called Zobrio. It works with Munis and with all of the treasurer collectors' bank statements. And it's basically a really efficient tool for managing all of the money that comes in, keeping track of where it's hitting the GL and where it's hitting the bank statement so that there's no room for error. A lot of times, if you go into, let's say, like the building department to get a permit, you'll pay for the permit there, and everything that we do currently is a manual entry. The person who's taking in the money will plug it in onto a sheet and say they want it to go to the building permit revenue, and then that sheet goes over to the collector's office, and then they plug it in somewhere else, and then the treasurer collector eventually gets the money into the bank. And everything is so manual that there's a lot of room for error, and this system kind of merges it all together. So once it's entered initially, it stays in the system there, and everything that happens to it, therefore, it's still connected with that initial data. So doing the cash book reconciliation is way more efficient. There's just a lot less room for error on that stuff. So we'll be able to do all of our reconciliations quicker and keep track of everything better. So that's something new that we've added in there as well. That's under professional and technical. And then otherwise, the only other change is the bonding went down slightly based on the actual amount that we've been spending for bonding. Otherwise, everything else was level funded. And again, hopefully for FY21, when Kathy gets a good chance to look at everything, she'll be able to kind of mold it a little bit better to what the department needs as a whole.
Questions?
What's the next one?
Next one, we will do
Town council?
town council. We're recommending no change whatsoever, level funded. The grand total of 84.5 keeps us out of trouble. Hopefully, we're trying desperately to bring costs down a little bit,
Yeah.
but gosh, it's hard to keep them out of here. So I don't have a problem with that. We can do street lighting next, because this is a really interesting one. This is the one marked number 3, and it's,
The page at the bottom.
page at the bottom is number 28.
Right.
We're all there?
Yep.
Okay, so we've traditionally budgeted and spent in the neighborhood of $40,000 or $50,000. Last year, or this, $9,400 because of the LED lights.
Mhm.
So I think this is gonna be an area of the budget. I'm still waiting, because we did have to purchase some more fixtures, because we missed in the inventory, some lights, and so we have to pick up some additional inventory. And I'm gonna buy a couple of extras in case a pole gets struck and it goes down. Now admittedly, the insurance company will, of the offending vehicle will pay for it, but I gotta have the fixture to put up. So I'm gonna put some into inventory. So I'm waiting for that bill to come in, but even if I doubled this, I'm still only spending about 20 grand. So we might be able to take about 30 grand out of this budget. So this is on Julie's watch list. So the LED lights, they're a success.
Do we have the same amount of lights that we had?
We have more.
We have more than we
Yeah.
had previous.
Yeah.
Have they
So
all been replaced, all the old incandescent or whatever?
everyone that we've been able to identify has been replaced, except for the 6 I just had to order. So we did find 6, a whole street that got missed. So we're going back, and some of those the lights had gone out, some lights had actually gone out, never relit. And then there was an initiative back when originally the price of energy started to skyrocket, and the town turned off some lights. But there was no inventory of which lights they turned off. So consequently, we never knew if they burned out or turned off. So now all of the lights are on. So, and our bill is $9,400. So, big win. So, we'll see. I'm just still keeping my eye on it, but I'm very cautiously optimistic. So, we shall see.
Any estimate on the lifespan of those?
The manufacturer says 20 years. I don't believe it. They're outside of the weather, they're not gonna make 20 years. But hopefully by the time they burn out, there'll be another grand. So, at some point, we'll probably have to do, a 1-year capital improvement and replace them all again. So, what that would cost, I don't know.
But they definitely last longer.
They last a lot longer, yeah. And we have a company that's under contract that will come out periodically and replace the bulbs that have, for some reason, no longer work. The LEDs themselves seem to work a long time, so something happens to the light fixture rather than the bulb burning out, if that makes sense. So when they come in and they fix it, and we have a survey, if you will, on the website, so you can say report a streetlight outage, and people can go to the website, report the outage, we accumulate the list. When there's enough to have the guys come out, they come down from Mansfield, I think, and they come in one day and they just fix them all, and then we start the list all over again.
So we had some discussion about certain intersections or certain areas requiring more additional.
Yeah, we've had to put
lighting.
some double heads up in some places, and in one place, we might have to go back and put a third head up. Mostly, interestingly enough, on this end of town.
Right.
Particularly, we've had to put a double head, Jerry's intersection, and then in front of Pop Casey's is a double. So that's important. I guess there's a track record of some pedestrian hits
Yes.
in front of Pops, so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So, good. All right, let's see if we could do something quick and simple fun. Let's do retirement of debt, number 28, page 38.
It's pretty easy.
Okay, anybody got any question here? This is a minus, it's a 2% increase on the fire engine, no, excuse me, on the police station.
Yeah, principal.
Principal, and obviously level funded on the ambulance borrowing. And then on the long-term debt, the police station bond interest and the ambulance borrowing interest, it's a 3.9% decrease, so. All good? Rule of 72, we're paying more principal and less interest. Okay. Now let's do town buildings, which is page 17, tab number 3. So we have a big decrease in the maintenance salaries. We are down 1 employee we are not planning to replace. So we're gonna live with what we've got, just the 2. And that seems to be working. Obviously that discontinues the stipend. Salaries temporary, we're increasing. We're increasing it because mowing lawns with non-DPW workers in the summertime is more cost effective. So hiring some part-time labor in the summer is more cost effective than taking the DPW guys out at their hourly pay and making them mow lawns. So it probably doesn't save us anything because we're paying the DPW anyway, but the DPW workers are doing DPW projects instead of being lawnmowers. So we're hiring, we're gonna try to put 3 on the payroll this summer to keep up with the lawns. We also then tend to help the schools a little bit because they also put on 2 people to do the lawn in the summertime. So we'll try to work with them to help cover them. How fast the grass grows is a question of how much it rains. So
Do they do any of the park areas?
they don't do Pope Park. The park committee does that. They don't do the cemeteries. But they, if we needed to send them there, if we have 3 people, I'd like to be able to loan them out and take the pressure off. Cemetery is well taken care of, but if I could help Chad at the Pope Park, I will. Right now, they're just taking care of the 16 town buildings that we have that on our side of the world. And it's like they finish the week and then they start all over again the next week. So, and last summer was a very effective program. And we didn't have to use the DPW guys once in the summer. I had to borrow them once in the fall to do the fall cleanup at the library and rip out all that stuff that was at the back of the library. But that was a big deal, and I needed that kind of labor to do it. But the DPW guys are thrilled not to have to be pulled off their projects to go mow a lawn. So, and it worked out great. So we're hoping to repeat that success again this coming summer. And then, of course, since I'm down an employee in the general workforce, it's possible that we're gonna spend a little more time in overtime to make up that little difference, so I put an extra $500 into the overtime. Which isn't a lot of overtime, but I wanted to bring that budget up a little bit just in case. So overall, it's a 19.5% decrease in salaries, and the energy side to bring the buildings into more energy efficient lighting, heating, insulating the Parting Ways building. We're dropping the budget on energy by $5,000. I think it might be possible that we'll even be less, but I want to be conservative. It really depends upon what kind of a winter we have. And then we're upping the repair and maintenance cost. 20,000 isn't enough, and we are trying to maintain our buildings a little better. And of course, I think you can see the improvements we've made in the buildings, and I don't want to let that slip. We're going to also be in for an article to put a new part of a roof on Town Hall, so that'll be a capital article that's coming in. We are paying attention to these long-term problems so they don't become issues of major proportions down the line. So I'm upping that budget a little bit to be more reflective of the reality. And then I'm dropping the custodial services budget to be more in line with the actual expense rather than just throwing 20 grand at it. Postage and supplies always blows me away. Now that's in the building line because it covers really every department. There's no way to actually farm it out to which department did which, or it's pointless to do it, we're gonna do it anyway. So we spend $29,000 in postage. It just seems unbelievable to me, but that's what we spend.
Does that include the tax bills?
Yeah, it's everything.
That's everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I've looked at mailing services and nothing's cheaper, well, it can be cheaper, but it can be more time consuming. And some of the printing costs go up as a result of that, so this seems to be the most effective way of doing it. Short of, and one of the things we're looking at, our new treasurer collector is looking at a company that can send your tax bill out by email if you so desire. So I think that would be cool. Some of our younger generation might like their tax bill by email. So that'll be an option. We wouldn't print it, we wouldn't mail it, we just email it. That'd be cool. We'll see how that works. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm an old guy, I like to feel it in my hand, so we'll see. And then the supplies budget, I'm bumping that up to be more in line with actual. If you look at the FY17 actual, I think we're going to be making sure that we have that. That might be my cushion, but I want to make sure that I don't go over on that, so. So overall, it's a decrease of 8.5%. Okay, and then we can go to the, what I call miscellaneous, which is tab number 3 on page 37. I'm recommending no increase or decrease in this budget, 16,166. This would include the celebrations budget, the beautification budget, the agricultural commission, the shellfish warden and harbor master. You know, Bob, you're gonna have to explain that one to me. Why do we have that? Okay.
That was instituted several years ago.
For a few years.
It was at the request of someone, and I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
The herring inspector, the cultural council, the safety committee, the housing partnership, and the Buzzards Bay Commission. So those are all those in that budget. Who is the herring inspector? Okay. All right, so let's take insurance, which is tab number 29, page 40.
Yeah. I think it was, Mr. Tetrivoni was there.
Huh?
Years ago, but he's been out of commission now for the last 3 or 4 years, he had a major stroke, so.
Oh, okay. Well, what does the herring inspector inspect? I know herring. Okay.
They replaced the herring run over here at the sawmill.
Yeah.
Before Buzzards Bay
Yeah,
was gonna
come
over.
back, there was a.
The state had requested, when they were studying that situation, there used to be a dam there, and then the state came in and recommended eliminating the dam and just having the herring run. And of course, they wanted a point of contact, they wanted a herring inspector, so
Okay.
I think that's how that originated.
So we appoint somebody to replace the poor gentleman that's no longer doing it, so we have to find somebody we don't like?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So now let's go to insurance. Always a fun line. So we've got right now a projection of about a 5% increase in health insurance. We won't get our numbers for, we went out to bid. We waiting still for our Maya number, which won't be released until about Valentine's Day. We have a quote from one of the insurance providers at a -1, and but I'm sort of waiting to see what Maya is. Our health insurance numbers are really good, meaning our loss ratio is extraordinarily low. So in the grand scheme of insurances, if you're above 85%, you're a bad risk. If you're under 85%, you're a good risk. We're this year at 62%. So we're really a really attractive risk. So I'm expecting Maya to come in with a negative number, and I'd be very disappointed if they didn't. So, and then we might make some adjustments there. We always leave a little room for people who come and, you know, join the plan. So there's always a little extra in that budget, because if you get a sign-on in the middle of the year, I need to be able to cover that. And then, obviously, the flexible benefit plan, we've added a few dollars. We've mostly rounded up a little bit because of this year's experience. And then on the liability insurance, we're predicting a 5% increase. Last year, we went down a lot, but then we had some losses that were sort of extraordinary, including the lightning strike. So I can assure you, our rate's going up. So,
Yeah, one way or the other. So
yeah. So I plan 5%. We'll see how good I am in predicting this.
Brian, can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Around workers' comp.
Yeah.
What happened in FY18? Why is it so much lower?
I question their modification calculation. They had been doing a 5-year rolling average of 5+1, but the law only allows 3+1. So that was the year that we brought in a new insurance company. And this is what triggered it, actually, because they came in and said, here's your workers' comp. And I said, you're figuring it wrong. And they argued with me. And no, I didn't figure it wrong. You figured it wrong. And that was what raised the alarm bell. And then I went out to bid on the insurance, and our total insurance package went down $85,000, and our insurance coverage went up 10%. So that was a great move. And I really want to send a thank you note to the workers' comp guy that tried to cheat us. So, and he knows how you figure a mod factor, and so do I. And the fact that he tried to get it past me thinking I was stupid really offends me. So, you know, they were bagging us for losses that, yes, when you have a loss under workers' comp, it's going to affect records for 3+1, one being the current year plus 3 years back. They were calculating our loss ratio based on 5+1, and that's unacceptable. So that's gouging. So, plus he wasn't a nice guy, so we got rid of him. Okay, pensions. This is unfortunately not something that I can debate. This is our county retirement assessment, $1,302,835 and a Medicare increase of, so Medicare went up 2%. So this is a real number.
Page 39, look.
They changed the number here for this team bed.
Yeah.
So they made us cover it in them last year.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
yeah.
Is that why they changed it?
Yeah.
Okay. As you know, we had to play catch up with Bristol County a few years ago. This is still reflective of this, and they just changed the calculation to expedite the payoff by 1 year.
Yeah,
So the calculation is part of that increase of 7.7%.
yeah.
It's okay, I'd like to get this behind us. Once we get that out of the way, then I will plan to start knocking off our OPEB liability the same way aggressively. So, as I talked to you guys last year about how we're gonna get rid of this, is we're gonna tread water on our OPEB until we get rid of our Bristol County retirement, then transfer the money we were spending or allocating for that over to the OPEB and wipe that out over time. Nothing is gonna happen overnight. It's still gonna take a matter of years to get it done, but we're gonna get it done.
how much is remaining on Bristol County?
I think we gotta go to 2024.
Yeah.
I'll get you the numbers, but
Yeah.
it's still quite a ways out.
Yeah,
So 2024, 2025, and then once that, and we're chipping away at it pretty good, or the whole county is.
mhm.
Once we get that number done, then we'll switch it to, to our other liability, and then we'll start feeling good. About 13 or 14 years from now.
Right. And you can see a lot of different faces in this one.
I think it's, it's one of these things, you're paying for the sins of our fathers, where they didn't assess themselves the true actuarial cost of the retirement. And we were all very happy to just accept the lower number. Well, it caught up with us.
Question, the old Russell Library.
Yes.
What's the story with that?
We have the plans to convert that to veterans housing. And we're doing that in joint partnership with Mattapoisett. I have the plans in the office, it's 13 or 14 units. In fact, if you'd like, it's a little off the agenda, but you guys got the time, I got the time to show it to you. I've got some drawings, I don't have prices yet.
Yeah.
And of course, the money has to come, it's gonna be raised by private foundation, it's gonna be some state funding, there's gonna be some money out of our community preservation, affordable housing trust, and there's gonna be money out of Mattapoisett's affordable housing trust. So, together, we'll put it together.
That's good.
But there's 3 wins for us. We get veterans housing, we preserve the Russell Memorial Library, which right now, it's not doing so well, And 3, we're gonna have the expanded housing authority administration of that building, so it will be maintained forever. And I went over to the facility in Dartmouth from the old state police barracks that was converted, that this group had done, and they did a beautiful job. So, and that's only 9 units, we're gonna put in 13 or 14 units. So, we got some issues to still overcome. I'm a little concerned about parking. So I'm working with Jim to figure out, and of course, I'm looking at the numbers based on, let's say, Dartmouth, they have 9 units, but they don't have 9 cars. So I'm trying to figure out what the number would be. So not everybody comes with a car that's, gonna need this housing.
Will that be all handicap accessible?
No, they will not be, and they don't need to be. In fact, interestingly enough, and I was quite surprised, they don't need to be at all handicapped accessible. So there's an exception in the law for that. However, 2 of the units are. So they're making sure that 2 of the units are. And then logistically, it is a little difficult to squeeze that all into one place. So the handicapped ones will be on, the library has 3 levels. Unfortunately, the first floor is the second floor, so, and you've never probably been on the 3rd floor. So, the level 1 where you walk in, the door that I would have called the main entrance is really the basement level. There's 2 units on that level, and then there's several units on the 2nd floor, which there is a lift from the basement level to the 2nd floor. And then there's a 3rd floor, and they're gonna expand the 3rd floor and build off the wings a little bit. And they will be architecturally compatible with the signature of the building. Because even though the building is technically not historical, it is historically significant to this town. And it is the first town building you see when you drive in.
Yeah.
So we want that to be an attractive advertisement, if you will. So I've got the drawings from the architect, and it's good. So, and I even showed them to Pauline Texera today, and she liked it, so it must be okay.
Must be good.
So, yeah,
Who's gonna maintain that?
that would be the housing authority.
Who, Mattapoisett, ours, or?
Ours, yep. They would be charged with the administration, and we have checked with them, and they're willing to accept it once we get it done. They won't contribute to the funding, they don't have any funding to give us. But once done, they will incorporate it into theirs, and the state will then up their allowance for maintenance. So once it's up and running, and we've done our part, then it will be their administration. So,
Were they planning on extending the housing on the original?
in presidential,
Yeah.
there is a plan for that, I have it on my shelf, but there's no active consideration of that. I mean, it makes sense.
I remember that you mentioned a few years ago that they were planning on extending that.
There is a
Few-
plan, it's
yeah.
in my office, that was drawn some years ago. They'll obviously be out of date at this point and have to be redrawn, but it's only logical at some point we're gonna have to expand that area.
Yeah.
And they have the land,
Yeah.
so, but that's a, as you know, a 50-50 joint venture with the state, so they're in the driver's seat, so we have to wait for the state to do that, but I'd like to see a little expansion of that. We certainly need, housing for our older residents that's affordable. So there's no argument there. So we're gonna take care of the veterans. Well, I know this sounds interesting, but by taking care of the veterans in the library facility, we'll be able to open more spaces for non-veterans. So the goal would be to take the pressure off, if you will, because we'd have someplace specifically for veterans, and then that would take the pressure. Right now, you jump to the front of the line if you're a veteran in the
Yeah.
housing lottery. That's great, but sometimes an out-of-town veteran can cut off elderly widow here in town. So if I could create the 14 units of veterans housing, I could take the,
Question of veteran, any town?
anytime. So,
I didn't realize
so a
that.
veteran from Grafton could apply to come here and get priority,
Wow.
so. It's a long, complex conflict, but the fact of the matter is if we could provide housing for veterans, that would take the pressure off, so.
Still working the modified hours?
Yes.
Town hall? How's that been?
Well, from my perspective, it's been good. Now, there's been some glitches. The good part of it is Tuesday nights is getting busier and busier and busier. We printed the hours on the tax bills so that we're trying to get the
People
word
are
out.
responding.
They are responding. We're starting to see Tuesday nights become busier. We see a lot more committees meeting on Tuesday night, which is good because more committees meeting on Tuesday night, I pay less overtime and committee time for staff. But more especially, you're seeing each other in the halls. And there's a lot more communication between the committees, which is good. Somebody will say, hey, we're working on this and you're working on that. It's a passing comment, but at least the communication is up. We see Henry, who works a lot of hours, but they're not always the hours that staff is here. And he makes, appointments and meets people and after hours and that kind of thing, which is great. But now he's here on Tuesday nights regularly. So that's creating a little more communication between the planning board and other departments. So I'm excited about that. But our one little glitch was this last week. Tax due day was Friday. And it was busy all week, and at about 11 o'clock, 11:30 on Friday, we had a lull, and I'm thinking, okay, everybody's read the hours, everything's great. And so town hall closed. And then I went out at about 2 o'clock to make the deposit, and came back, and 5 cars in the parking lot, and and then they were using the drop box, which was fine. They were trying the door. Tyler and Miguel were working in the old clerk's office, and they had the door open, and people were trying to go in there and get them to stamp in their check. And so I had to explain to people that the town hall was closed, but I could take your envelope. But I had a young lady that came with a wad of cash and wanted to pay her tax bill, and I can't take it. So I suggested that she, go down to the post office for $1, get a cash, get a money order, thank you, and put it in the box, and she thought that was too much work, so to wait till Monday. And then there's a small interest charge, but it wasn't that big a deal. On Monday, they emptied the box out front, and it was pretty full. So, maybe that we'll look at that if that happens to fall that way again. The first time we did it, tax day fell on a Tuesday, and we were open late. That was great. This time we did it, and tax day fell on a Friday. So maybe if it falls on a Friday again, we'll look at other things. But I
Just
called
keep it
other.
closing it on Tuesdays.
Sorry?
Just keep closing tax days
Yeah,
on Tuesdays.
fortunately, that's set by the state, but I called other towns, it's like, okay, well, if you close on Friday and Friday was tax day, because we're not the only town that did it that way, what do? And most towns, like, close on Friday. We don't do extra hours, those are the hours of town hall, and, you had 30 days to pay your tax bill, and if you waited to the last minute, well, and the hours are printed on the tax bill, really sort of, not what I call customer service friendly, but, so we'll look at that and see how it falls next time, and see what we want to do. I think we've been doing the hours since October 1st. There's an awful lot of people who do know the hours have changed, and there's apparently an awful lot of people who didn't know. So,
They'll learn, they'll get accustomed to it.
well, of course, the other thing that we're running into is more in Pam's office, the town clerk's office, that the registry is now requiring you to prove you're born here. And to get the real ID, you need your birth certificate. And so dutifully, I went to the registry to get my license renewed, and I had the birth certificate I got into school with, I got into college with, I got my original driver's license with, I went into the Navy with. That wasn't acceptable anymore. You gotta have the long form. And by the way, everywhere you look, it says you have to have the long form, so who's the idiot? I didn't read. And so I can't argue with the registry that they rejected my birth certificate that, means so much to me. But, so I had to go back and get the long form, and then I learned that Acushnet charges $10 for a birth certificate, and my home charges $35 for a birth certificate. So I want
Charge is 15.
Sorry?
The benefit charge is 15.
15. So apparently we're all over the road, but I want to have my birth certificate issued here. So, and then I found out the rules that you could get a birth certificate from either your birth town or the town you lived in when you were born. So if you happen to be born in the neighboring hospital, you can get it from that town, or you can get it from the town. I didn't know that.
I didn't know
And
that.
then
I did not know that.
Now,
there's
what
the
happens if
kids,
that
so-
town's in 2 different states?
Yes, you can.
Because I was like in Tiverton, but I was born in Fall River.
Yeah.
I think in Rhode Island you can go to any town hall. I saw people posting about this recently.
Oh, really?
Rhode Island is different.
I don't
think,
see
yeah.
why we couldn't issue it from any town hall.
And the social security cards can't be laminated.
Yes, but if you go to the AAA, they don't seem to notice that. Yeah, mine was laminated. I didn't laminate it, my mother must have, you know.
Mine was laminated, but it was so old that I
Yeah.
just touched it and lamination just fell apart.
Well,
The card was perfect, so I was
my
okay.
laminate's not gonna fall apart, I'm in trouble, so. And if you get your social security card, you have to appear in person in the social security office.
Yeah.
So you can't just write away for it or get it online, so
Right.
this is no
They give it to you
fun.
right then?
Yeah, but you wait
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time.
They give it to you right then?
Yeah, they do give it to you right away, but you wait and wait and wait. I waited 3 hours,
Oh.
Oh, my God.
so,
Get ready.
I know.
okay, that's all I got.
Okay.
That's it?
Now, I will tell you that your budget, year-to-date, is on your website. Anybody want a printed copy? I got one right here,
I need,
okay? Otherwise, you can print it from the website. So we're trying to save paper, but if you'd like it printed by us, we will do it for you.
Yeah.
But it's on the website, you can get it anytime you want it. And we have a transfer, you wanna talk about transfer next week?
yeah, I'm gonna bring it up in the new business and we'll just put it off.
Thank you.
I had one other thing. I don't know if you guys already saw it, but Old Colony had sent out an email that they're doing their meeting. They were gonna have one, like, I think later in February, and then they switched it to this upcoming Monday, the 11th at 1 o'clock. I don't know, I think, did you go last time to it?
I can't make it.
Yeah, so I didn't know if anyone wanted to go. I'm planning on going, just so that I can at least get whatever information for you guys, but
Monday at 11 o'clock.
Monday at 11 o'clock, yeah.
11 or 1?
Oh, Monday at 1, sorry.
Right.
Monday the 11th at 1 o'clock.
Oh,
Yeah. So just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that.
that's not good for you, is it?
No.
Is that gonna be their first, that's gonna be their first budget hearing?
I think so. I think they have a preliminary budget, and that's where they'll be going through it with everyone. That's all I have.
Good, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any old business? New business? New business, we have a request of a transfer from the reserve fund from the Board of Selectmen for the sum of $4,020 for elevator extraordinary repair cost. We'll take this up at our next meeting next week.
Lift extraordinary cost.
Hmm?
A lift extraordinary cost.
Yes, the lift, not the, did I write elevator? Shame on me.
Says elevator.
We wanna make sure we refer to it as a lift.
Kathy, we'll put that on the agenda for next week, please. And that's all I have for new business. Anyone else? Meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes of January 23rd. And absent was Dr. Boucher. Everyone else was there. Motion on that?
Motion to
Yeah.
approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And May 14th, we have absent was Jackie Stanley. Everyone else was present.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
So I can already have the place.
Opposed?
So
Yeah.
you know
I have a copy of that.
Sorry?
The budget there.
That's Mr. St. Jean's, you lose.
Oh,
You gotta speak up sooner, but I'll
Oh.
print you another one, Joe.
all right.
So, you know, I know the
business
chairman
before
gets
the,
Oh, he's got priority.
motion made and seconded to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
I'll fix him.